What is the utility of scripts?
What is the utility of scripts? I think for me the utility of scripts is it's a way to propose new questions about mathematics and geometry. But architecture needs these things to produce organization. And everything that's architecture is about systems of organization. From structure to circulation to plumbing to program. These are all forms of organization. You cannot have organization without a system. And in the history of architecture, the system has always been defined by mathematical models, meaning geometry, more recently calculus, and at a certain point, topology. Each of these are mathematical systems. What's interesting about a script or about scripting is that it's algorithmic. And an algorithmic system is not a mathematical system, nor is it purely a logical system. An algorithm is a combination of two things. So the last time something like this was invented is in the Cartesian coordinate system, where Descartes found a way to turn geometrical expressions into algebraic ones. And so now you can produce geometry using equations. Before you had to do constructions. Now you can do different operations. I think algorithm and scripting are that kind of innovation that allows you to produce geometry but with non-geometrical tools. The more we get into complex fabrication, the more we get into coordinating the system of production of architecture, the more we get into coordinating the construction of architecture, the more we get into coordinating the material fabric of architecture, the more we rely on the computer to do certain things. So it's good. The use of the computer and basic tools allow us to, in a very refined and organized way, control all of these systems. But let's say we want to do an experiment. What's an experiment in architecture? What's an experiment in geometry? Well, it's not an experiment if we already know the results. It's an experiment to try and test a possibility, to try something that we don't know about. And scripting and algorithm can also, on the other side, experiment with form and space and organization and systems at that level. I think that's the utility of scripting. It's something with which we can test not only the notion of an architectural system, but the idea of other architectural systems that we can't produce or we can't innovate because in a way we already know them. So it's a way of doing something different, but that also has a tremendous amount of rigor involved.
Okay. Do you think that scripts are today the means for experimenting in architecture or a solution for construction?
Can you say that again? Do I think what? Scripts?
Scripts are today the means for only experimenting architecture or a solution for construction?
Well, they're both, but you have to remember that we're still, half of us work, when we build a building, we're using technology that's absolutely medieval. We do bricks and cement and and we're going to be doing that for a while. But we can also do more experimental construction systems with advanced fabrication that require computationally based pieces of information. So we can do both, but the point is that we can do both at the same time. We can experiment with form and structure and organization. We can also experiment with the nature of how a building is organized structurally.
Oh, but it's two different things. No, they can work together.
Yeah.
Construction and.
Sure, they have to, because if you're experimenting with the script and you're not an architect, then you're not going to make architectural decisions. But if you're an architect, you're going to look at the way in which elements are relating to each other as something that has informed possibilities for structure or that don't. So if I see a bunch of pieces in space, one's here, one's here, and one's here, I know that's not a structure because they're not touching. So then I have to be able to kind of manufacture the script so that they somehow touch, and there's a kind of continuity. But I can also then, in the script, say, well, what if they touch this way? You know, or they touch this way,
Yeah.
or they touch this way, or this way, or this way. I can't test that out really fast by drawing, and I can't test it out really fast by making pieces of wood and putting them together. But I can test it pretty fast in the computer. So I can test a design and I can test its structure.
Okay, and the last question is, would you agree with Louis Sullivan, form follows function?
I think that that's a valuable way of looking at form. And form is something it's a product of how you want to use something or what the intended use is. But use then is, I think, a much more complicated idea because a use can change, but a use can change and the form doesn't necessarily change.
Yes, right.
I can have a building that used to be a good factory, but now it's a better apartment building. Form hasn't changed. Maybe it's a situation in which the form doesn't have to change. I think form can follow function. I don't think that there's a problem with that. I think function can follow form, and I think that's where the idea of innovation comes in. That if you can innovate formal logics and organizations, you can produce maybe new functions, new qualities, new experiences. And I don't think actually that you can do that without developing new formal organizations. So form does follow function, but function can follow and can be invented by innovations in form.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.